Welcome to the third episode of Data Management Series of Reliance Tech Talk. I'm Samaraji, and I can't wait to walk you through what we have in store for you today. In this episode, we'll be exploring smarter approaches to data retention and deletion using the powerful capabilities of Microsoft Purview. Let's dive in. Managing compliance and regulatory requirements concerning data retention and deletion has become increasingly complex, with data growing across various platforms daily. A holistic approach is essential at this point. But what's the reason for this complexity? Should it not be as simple as hitting the delete button to delete your data? Well, data now resides in diverse and sometimes unexpected locations. We need an orchestrated approach to identify and verify applicable retention rules before we can delete data. Broadly speaking, the requirement for retention and deletion revolves around compliance with industry regulations, reducing risk in the face of litigation or security breaches, and ensuring optimal resource optimization within the organization. Managing these requirements manually has become challenging for most compliance teams. However, with Microsoft Purview, you can gain access to tools and capabilities that simplify the retention and deletion process for your compliance team.
For requirements around data and records management, we typically will be leveraging data lifecycle management or record management, and in some cases, both of them. Now, there's quite a lot of similarities between records management and data lifecycle management. But overall, data lifecycle management focuses on managing retention and deletion for every data created within your Microsoft 365 environment. So think of Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Viva Engage, right? But there are scenarios where you need to zero in on specific business critical documents or records, right? And that's where records management comes into play. So right from record management, we're able to manage business critical data, zeroing on them to start with, manage them, and in scenarios where we need to demonstrate compliance with specific business regulations or compliance regulations, right? From records management, we're able to achieve this.
Purview offers two configurable actions, which are to retain content or delete content. These actions can be configured with different retention settings, including retain only, delete only, and retain then delete options. These settings are assigned to contents in place across various content stores, eliminating the need for additional storage and custom processes in the organization.
So let's look at retention label creation under data lifecycle management. As we can see here, we already have some labels populated here, but let's create a new one. So we see the various options that we've got. All right, so the first option we'll be looking at is just labeling items, right? So this is just about classifying labeled items. There are no policies enforced there to guard users from deleting, moving, or modifying the item or the record in question. So this is just about classifying the items, and that's it. So as you can see, no action is required on the retention policy. All right, so the second we'll be looking at would be enforce actions after a specific period. So we can go ahead and specify a period, right? So that could be 7 years, 5 years, 10 years, or this can be done custom as well. Could be a couple of months or even longer or shorter years, whatever works for us, depending on the business case. We'll be sticking with 7 years right here, right? And then the next thing we'll be looking at is when should the period begin? So we have three options. It can begin when the item was created, when it was last modified, or when the items were labeled. So these are the options we have, but we'll go with the first one. So on this page, you get to select what happens at the end of the period we specified earlier, which was 7 years. Should the item be deleted automatically, right? Or should the label be changed? So again, depending on your business case, right? It's possible that there are records that you want to keep for a certain period of time, and then after that you want to apply a separate label, a different label to that record. So this feature makes this possible. So as you can see, I'll be selecting one of the labels we saw earlier on the first page. So it's going to be changing to employee data label, and we can go ahead and create a label, but let's go back to the first page so we can take a look at the last option. And I believe this is the most interesting option, right? So this gives us a variety of actions that we can carry out. So this is just like the page we had earlier where we get select a retention period, right? But we have a lot more options as to when the retention period should be based on. Could be when the items were created, last modified, labeled, just like we have in the previous option we looked at. Or it could be dependent on certain employee activity, product lifetime, or expiration termination of contracts and agreements. So these are all event driven. But again, let's take a look at when items were created. Right. So just like I had on the previous one, we can tell this label to automatically delete the record once the retention period has been reached, right? And then also we have an option to start a disposition review. So this is basically just about putting people or persons in place, right, to review whether or not we can go ahead and delete the item, or if we should go with the option of changing the label. So you can create up to 5 stages here, but let's create just one stage so we see what this looks like. So let's call this demo stage. We get to specify a user that will be carrying out a review for this, right? And once that is set, what this means is after 7 years, this person is prompted to review the specific record that this label has been applied to, and then they get to confirm if we should go ahead and delete the record, or if they want the label changed to another label, just like we had in the previous option. But of course, we can just go ahead and change the label after the retention period, which is 7 years, like we had set in the previous stage. So again, we can select the label we'd like to change to. We still have employee data selected, so let's just go ahead. And then an interesting option, right? We can run a Power Automate flow. So this basically could help us achieve quite a number of things. It could be about notifying certain persons, right, that this record has reached the end of the retention period and has been deleted, right? It could be about moving the item from the location where it's located at the moment to another location, perhaps for the purpose of archiving the item, So whatever the use case is, but the long and short of it is we can actually create a Power Automate flow that would assist us carry out further action from or on the record. But of course, this typically the creation would have to happen in Power Automate environment. Once it's created there and mapped to Purview, we will see the Power Automate flow here. We can select and apply, but I've not created any, so none is training at the moment. And then the last option, we can basically just deactivate the retention setting. Again, this doesn't remove the record or the item, right? It just removes the label and the retention settings that we have set on the record. So if there will be need to eventually remove the item, right, it would have to be done manually. And of course, if the retention label has been deactivated or setting has been deactivated, users can most likely go ahead and edit, move, or delete the item without any restriction. So in scenarios where you have quite a number of labels you'd like to have created in your organization, rather than going about it manually by creating the labels one after the other, you can actually populate an Excel template, right, with the names of each label and the retention duration and any other detail really that you'd send the template. Once you have that, you can upload that Excel template using this import button. Once you have the Excel template uploaded into this platform, you get to see all the policies you've created listed out there. So one other question that may be on our mind is, how do I apply these labels to my files or to my data repositories? So once a label is created and published, right? So if I were to select this and click on publish label, this label will become available for everyone in my organization, or everyone I've published it to. It becomes available to them for them to either apply to specific files or to apply to data repository, in this case SharePoint. Additionally, you can actually auto apply this label by leveraging predefined templates. So as we can see here, we have trainable classifiers, sensitive information types, exact data match classifiers. So we can, based on these classifiers that we have here, tell this policy to auto apply itself. So when it sees a record, a file that contains any sensitive information type that we've predefined, right, it's going to automatically apply itself to that record.
To assign retention settings to content, Microsoft Purview provides retention policy and retention labels. Retention policies ensure consistent retention settings at the site or mailbox level, while retention labels allow for granular control at an item resource level. One notable feature in this automatic application of retention label based on specific conditions, right, is reducing the burden on users and ensuring compliance without manual intervention. Also, by operationalizing data retention and deletion with Microsoft Purview, you can simplify compliance, reduce risk with intuitive management. Also, it's very much scalable and it has built-in capabilities and continuous updates. You can also take another step towards securing customer trust and demonstrating compliance with Microsoft Purview. And this brings us to the end of this episode. For more data management insights and solutions, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notification. For inquiries, kindly leave us a comment below or reach out to the email address visible on your screen. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.